Hold.
Hold. Okay, we got the logo up. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. Oh, the embers are flying directly to the right in parallel paths. They're little shooting stars of knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Wednesday. It's the second best day of the week after Monday, of course. My name is Day 9, and it's time to learn some Dota with Kevin. How's it going, Kevin?
Pretty good. How you doing? You had a busy week. You traveled around.
Oh my god, dude. Holy shit, I am living the high of the PC gaming show. So for any of you who don't know, I hosted the PC gaming show on Monday morning, which is, there's a whole bunch of conferences that companies put on, like Bethesda's talking about their games, and EA talks about their games, Microsoft and Sony, Nintendo, and so on. And PC Gamer thought, why isn't there a PC gaming show? We should do one of those. And it's a little different because there's no, like, owner. It's not like Microsoft, who is promoting Microsoft products, is there to get you to buy things Microsoft and so on. It's just PC gaming. So no one owns PC gaming, and my god, it was just so great. It was so fun. It was so fun. And Kevin, I did a good job. Holy shit. Oh my god, let me tell you. Like, have you ever played like a perfect game of Dota?
I definitely shouldn't say yes here. Against bad players, yes, easily.
But like, have you ever played a game that when you were done, you were just like, I'm amazing.
I owned.
That was so good.
I feel like
my
that
god.
sometimes.
Like, I actually think that that show was the best thing I've ever done in 2 or 3 years of stuff. Like when I play Hearthstone, garbage compared to that show.
Yeah.
Got 80 last hits at 10 minutes with Lena last week. Nothing compared to the PC gaming show. Holy fuck, man. And one of the things that I really like about it is that we rehearse, but only kind of. Like, there's no script, there's no teleprompter, there's none of that. I sort of say to the guests, you know, we talk about their game a little bit, and I say, you know, these 4 things really interested me. I'm going to ask you about those 4. And then they say, well, we also want to talk about thing 5. And I'm like, well, how much do you have to say about that? So, 30 seconds. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about those 5 things. And then they just come on out, and I talk to them about their game. And so, you know, a lot of the stuff that they said on stage, it was like the first time that I actually got to hear about that, which makes just for a really nice flow. Because in some of the conferences, people script jokes, and that's just brutal. That's just, if I'm going to tell you a joke and you know it's coming, you know what you're not going to do? Find it funny.
Laugh genuinely. It'll just be like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, ha ha. I love gamers. But God, I was in a great mood. And then I drove home and immediately played Bristleback, where I was unkillable. So,
did you win all those games?
I think I lost all of them. Let me investigate.
Really?
That
hero's strong right now.
Wow, yeah, I actually did lose all my Bristleback games. That surprises me. I didn't feel like I lost. I didn't die, but, you know, there you go.
Okay.
There you go. It was fantastic. So, I don't know. I'm in a great mood. My sleep schedule is fucked in the good way. I'm, like, falling asleep at 10 and getting up at, like, 6:30 or 7. So, okay. I feel like I can move tiny objects with my mind. So, I'm very eager to learn stuff today. How was Epicenter?
It was pretty good. I had a good time. It's a really good tournament. They have incredible stage design, and they treat everybody really well. So it was a really good time. A little bit of a it was the same team that won the previous Epicenter won again. It was Liquid. Spoiler alert, I guess. And it's good for them because that kind of guarantees their TI invite, and it kind of means they're back on top. And it's been a long time since Liquid was like that in Dota, like at least 9 months. So it's pretty cool.
Well, fucking sick.
I got back on Sunday, and my left ear still hasn't quite popped yet from the flight. I'm sick, so
it's okay.
It'll get there. It's only been 2 days.
I'll lean in close to the side.
Or you could just scream. That might help actually at this point. I'll take whatever you got. I can't hear as well.
Thoughts on mid-game, Kevin? Well,
that might solve it.
Well, tell us a little bit about what is the particular topic of today's show.
Well, it's called Teamfighting. This is something you've done a lot of times since the beginning of the show, but we wanted to cover some of the specifics and some of the things to consider when you actually do take team fights. And the important thing to remember is that when a team fight happens, pretty much every fraction of a second something is happening that's probably going to affect your decision making. And if you do this perfectly, it's going to give you a higher chance of always making the best decisions in a fight and maximizing your abilities and identifying threats. And one of the reasons that we definitely wanted to delay this for a long time is because a lot of team fighting properly comes down to knowing what your opponents do. And at this point, you've played a lot more Dota than you had at the start. So you should be better able to make those decisions, not to mention you know a lot of other mechanics and strategy things.
There's only about 3 heroes that I truly don't understand. And even those I know the abilities for. I just don't quite know how they're supposed to play, so.
Okay. And obviously it would be better if you played every single hero in the game, because then you would better know the windows of weakness or when they're vulnerable, things like that. But we'll get there over time, and mostly that's just going to take you playing games.
Standard.
And by games, I mean like hundreds of games, most likely, and experiencing every situation in the game to give you
no
enough
problem.
knowledge.
That's too easy. I have a lot of free time, as you know, Kevin.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yeah, 4 shows a week, going to conferences to do other jobs. Yeah, tons of free time.
Standard.
Okay.
And one of the things that we're going to do that's a little different today is that Kevin is going to do the lesson, and then I am going to play a practice game or so. But then we're going to quickly switch over to Kevin's and do 2 or 3 live coaching games, because I was noticing that there was, I think, a completely fucked up thought process pattern happening in my head, where the last 3 or 4 lessons that Kevin would dump information onto me, I could feel those, 6 or 7 key learnings as the core of my focus. Like 90% of my brain was on those. And that was kind of, I just flatly think that I had an incorrect thought process. And if any of you watched last week, what I did is I said, here are my big goals. And I just said, I will focus on last hitting in the first 10 minutes. And the comparison that I would make is like if I did a lesson for you, Kevin, about crisis management in StarCraft. You only really need to do crisis management 1 out of every 10 games. Most of the time, none of that shit even happens. You get to do the build order you want to do. You get to arrive in the spot that you want to do. But if in every single game you're constantly trying to think about crisis management, you're wasting brain energy doing that. And I think that that's what I've been doing, is wasting my brain energy considering A and B and C as big possible choices. And when it's really like, no, Sean, farm. So I want to get some more support in roaming live coaching and try to do more of, here's what I think I'm supposed to be doing, and have Kevin say yes or no, and at the very least have me try to come up with stuff and have Kevin comment on the thought process as opposed to the literal what should I be doing and not doing, and so on and so forth. So
should help you get better a lot faster. And there's a lot of other things that can definitely distract your brain too, like playing on new gear, having a different monitor set up, having lower FPS, all that stuff.
I don't have any of those excuses.
Definitely makes it harder to play effectively, but
yeah,
that's fine.
Well, that's for the pros that have struggles, because I've gone to events where I don't even feel like I'm actually playing StarCraft because everything feels so weird and the monitor's really huge, and I'm used to like tiny, like small hand movements, moving the mouse a short distance, but
yeah, that could be tough. I almost had to play that show match at Epicenter with a $5 mouse, so I was very, very pleased when they pulled the new SteelSeries 1 out of a box and gave it to me. I was like, thank God I can play normal. 2 buttons on my mouse, amazing. All right, so we can open up with clip number 1A, which is the basics of teamfighting, and it's basically just hero positioning. Do you have a definition for being out of position?
A definition for being out of position. Well, so I'm going to do a hand wavy one first, and because I majored in mathematics, I'm going to give you a robust, precise definition to follow. So hand wavily, it's where you are standing somewhere, farming, loitering, and a bunch of heroes come out of nowhere and kill you, and you don't even feel like you have a retreat path. You just feel like you were in an unsafe place where you shouldn't have been. So I suppose that in a very literal sense, it's that you're out of position when your opponents have an easy access to you and easy escape paths, and you don't have easy escape paths. Is that fair?
It's sort of like that. I would say it's your opponents have opportunities to punish you. It's probably the easiest word to say that covers all circumstances. They have an easy opportunity to punish you due to your positioning, whereas if you're in good positioning, it's difficult, or it will take a lot of resources for them to punish you. And that's kind of the difference between good and bad positioning.
And this might be too early to say, but actually, I'll just make the statement, then we'll go right into there. Part of me is always trying to find where the edge is, because I think that the wrong lesson to learn from what you said is always play ultra passively and conservatively, because then your opponent can never exploit that.
But sometimes you do have to put yourself in an aggressive position. That could be you get a kill, or maybe you do die and look like an idiot.
Yeah.
So it could change things. So go ahead and press play on the clip. In this example, we just have the Radiant team with 20k net worth, the Dire team with 22k net worth. And this is the most simple bad positioning, is when one hero is fighting multiple heroes before the enemy team shows up. And this is the best way. It's kind of like power curves. It's the best way to take an advantage or to abuse positioning to give your team a better chance of winning a fight, is to fight one of the heroes that's out of position for a couple seconds, even if it's only 4 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, it gives you time to out DPS them and get that kill, and which ultimately makes it a 4v5 afterwards. So that's the absolute basic. We've covered that a little bit before.
Sure.
And every second makes a big difference. So those are kind of some of the things that you need to look for in a team fight about whether it's worth pressuring them or not.
Of course.
And if somebody is out of position, you can also consider using disables to keep them out of position longer. That's why stuns are so effective, and why things like Pudge Hook or Rubik Lift can be so amazing as well, because you can further pull somebody out of position even worse than they might have been when you hooked them in the first place. So definitely something to consider. The other thing, of course, is to consider hero survivability. What is the guy that you're initiated on? You mentioned, I think last week or the week before, that you were having a lot of games where your team would just always go on the Bristleback. And that's because that Bristleback had this smart position. He put himself closest to your team. That way you felt like that was the only guy you could go on. And if you tried to walk past him and hit the back line, then he starts charging at you and right-clicking your supports for a lot of damage.
Right.
So the person you target is also a really big aspect of team fighting. You want to kill the Marines before you kill the Zealots, basically, assuming Zealots and Marines are fighting together. 2v2 or whatever. Yeah. So those are the basics. Other than that, you can also look at which of the heroes does the most damage. Obviously, there's higher damaging heroes in different roles. It depends on what items they have, how many levels, and that's also something you might want to consider. Just because if you kill the sniper first, instead of letting him sit in the back and attack while the Bristleback takes damage, then your team fight will be a lot easier. So the easiest way to show that, I believe, is I think we're going to skip 1B for now, actually. Sure. In case you were going to click on that. Why don't you click on 3A, please? So let's look at some like health differences and some damage differences. And the clip starts off with a basic team fight initiation, which is Void initiating and looking to chrono. He eventually does drop a chrono. So we'll see a pause. And now, coming from the Dire's perspective, who's the most important hero to kill in this circumstance?
Okay, very first move is to set the cat onto the ground. Who is the most important?
Interesting strategy.
It's a good build. Who's the most important person to kill from the Dire perspective? So if I am Dire, I want to kill Lena. She is the biggest damage dealer of any of those people there. I can't tell who this is since it's blurry in there.
That is the Bristleback.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, Rubik is a fine choice because Rubik's right here and he's level 13. But Lena is, I think, generally speaking, the hero that you want to kill.
So with positioning in mind, is Lena attainable in this circumstance?
I would give it a hearty fuck no.
For what reason?
Well, there are 2 towers right next to her. This tower up here. All of these heroes are on the low ground, so they would have to walk up here through this chrono area to try to get to Lena, and she could just comfortably stay on the other side, and the chronosphere is almost zoning for Lena at this point. Yeah.
And the important thing to remember is what is your... How do those heroes do damage? I mean, there's a lot of range heroes. There's a Shadow Fiend and a Sniper. But to even attack the Lena, they'd have to position themselves about where the tier 3 tower is just to begin attacking the Lena. And even to get into that position, they would have to walk all the way up there, which is going to waste seconds of the chrono time, for example. So this fight would have been better for the Dire team if the Void goes in, Chronospheres, and at the same time the Dire team's running up the hill. That way when the chrono actually comes out, you have more time to actually target the person you want to. So you can press play now and resume the clip. I don't remember how long the pause is, but okay, it's done. Let's you can pause here for a second. Actually, just play it. What he did here is calculated the DPS of the heroes in comparison to one another, so we can just get a little bit of proof of concept of this. As you can see, Rubik does absolutely shit damage. The Lena does a lot, and the Bristle does pretty good damage. And these are their items on the left side as well, kind of weird stuff. And now we can look at their survivability as well, because this is the other thing to consider that we were talking about before. Which hero is the easiest to kill, how much damage they do. Lena actually has pretty good survivability this game because she has an E-Blade for some stupid reason, so her armor is really high. And her
Bloodstone
HP with Bloodstone
for a ton of extra HP,
exactly, all pretty good stuff. But obviously the Bristle has way more survivability because of having Bristleback, for example. So yeah, Rubik's an easy kill. He doesn't do much damage, but he also does have disables. Obviously, there's things that he can do, such as steal a good spell, that would make their team fight a lot better. So if you resume the clip now, which I assume it's still playing. The big threat of Rubik is that he can easily steal Chronosphere, because for a Void to even cast Chronosphere, he uses Time Walk to jump in, then he casts Chrono, and now, despite Rubik's damage
there's
being bad,
all these people stepping up the hill, like you said.
Yep, because they want to actually help killing someone. And they end up killing Bristle instead. The Bristle died fairly easy, I'd say. And yes, nothing really happened at the end of the team fight, but by stealing Chronosphere, if the Rubik had the presence of mind to use it afterwards, or the ability if he wasn't silenced or threatened, he could then Chronosphere the enemy team, and then it's just a complete swing around, assuming his team lives. So in that team fight circumstance, Rubik doesn't contribute much, but the threat of the disable could be a really big thing that the Dire team has to consider when they take the team fight. So this is like a basic circumstance of taking the fight. And the Lina also could have saved the Bristle because she had an E-Blade, and that would have made him ethereal, which means he doesn't take right-click damage from like the sniper and the SF. So when you play Dota team fights, you just have to change. You have to reassess the situation constantly to always know exactly what you should do at every moment. And it comes down to simple things like, can I press BKB now? Is that going to stop their damage output? Is the team fight starting? Using your items in the perfect circumstances, using your skills in the perfect circumstance to give you the most team fight output.
And I think that one thing that I'll just note is more and more and more, I'm getting a sense of the gist of a hero. Like Bristleback, the gist of him is that the longer you're near him, the more damage he'll take, and try not to target him too much because he's super tanky. That's like I feel like the core concept with Bristleback. Yes, he has nasal goo and warpath functions in this way with his ultimate, but that's like detail stuff, right? You know, when you think about Tidehunter, he's tanky, he has Ravage. Everything else is like little detail stuff, and I think that this ties back to exactly what I was saying earlier of the pie chart in my brain of what I should be focusing on. I think I'm trying to keep like 20 things in my head when really there's 3 or 4 big chunky things. Because like in that entire analysis, you talked almost exclusively about who the big damage dealer was, who the tanky person was, and holy shit, Chronosphere and Rubik. And we ignored a lot of the other specific stuff. And I think that getting, I guess I'd say, the right zoom level in terms of analyzing a battle would be important for me to know. So.
And that's why this is so hard, is because a lot of it just comes out of feeling. You'll play enough Dota games where you realize, oh, Rubik's going to be squishy. You don't even check his items, you just know he's going to be squishy because we're winning the game. I've killed him a few times. He won't have this ridiculous item build. He probably doesn't have escape. And then you use that to think, oh, I can probably kill Rubik during Chronosphere, and once I do that, the fight's easier. But if you do take a little bit of time to look at the lineup and think, hey, how do I counter this lineup, or what abilities should I be concerned about? That's the kind of stuff that happens in pro games all the time that gives them huge edges because they know how to exploit their enemy lineups because they can think about how their abilities will give them a team fight advantage at the start of the fight. Batrider is a great example of that. Jumps in, lassos somebody, pulls them to his team, kills that person. Batrider alone doesn't do a lot of damage, but if he guarantees that one hero dies and it's an important hero, then it should be an easy fight after that, assuming it works out in that way. Right. Okay, you can play 9B. This is an example of taking a fight if you do have to worry about a hero like Bristleback, for example.
3B or 9B?
3B. Do you have that one?
Oh, yes. I thought you said 9B. Oh, my God.
So getting the backline is basically a solution to the problem of not wanting to kill the Bristleback. So wrapping around is the simplest way. I'm not going to show clips of all these because we've covered a lot of them before, but basically smoking to approach from the back because their tanky heroes are always going to be in the front near the towers where they think you're going to be, and their supports will be in the back hiding in trees, standing behind ready to cast spells. You can do Blink or Invis initiation, whether with a Nyx Assassin, a Blink Dagger, and some of the other ones as well. So this is just an example of a backline. The OD, for example, hits the backline. He goes on the enemy heroes. He pops a BKB to make it safer. And the enemy team kind of did the same thing at the same point, which was putting their high damage heroes to try to kill the tanky damage, or the squishier damage dealers on the backline.
I'm actually going to rewind this just to be able to get this from the very, very start. So this is the Bristleback, the OD trying to come around to find squishier heroes because these are the tankier ones in the front. These are the more important ones in the front. The
Sniper and the Sand King. Sand King's kind of hard to kill right away because he has a lot of survivability. Sniper does a lot of damage. But he ends up jumping in and going for Disruptor, because if Disruptor uses his Static Storm ultimate on, let's say, Undying, Venomancer, blah, blah, it'll be a big team fight advantage for the Radiant team. So he jumps back there and does his best to try to kill those heroes.
And there's the Static Storm and the ultimate.
And the Dire team, I'm sorry, Sand King was on the opposite team. The Dire team wants to kill the Sniper, because if Sniper just sits back and pings away shrapnels and right-clicks, then they'll probably get out DPS. But in the meantime, they're keeping him busy, which means he's not attacking because he's being stunned. Therefore, he doesn't get to damage while this fight's happening. So there's a lot of things like that that can be really good. Even the OD securing the sniper kill because that guy had to die for that to be successful, and now Venomancer gets to initiate. It's really it's a very even fight. There's a lot of stuff going both ways, but depending on how the team fight starts and how the initiation goes, everything changes a lot.
Right.
So we could basically analyze. You could pause this. You could pause this like every fraction of a second, and we could talk about how the nuance changed.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say.
How did this change? How did this change?
The one thing that I always note is a big difference between my games and watching pro games is how many pro games fights last really long. Like, you get a 30-second long team fight.
Yeah.
And, I mean, individual pickoffs are, like, instant. But the big fights, insane to me, the dynamics of how quickly.
And that's because they understand the threat of their opponents, how their abilities work, what items counter it, and they back each other up. Because once you actually play as a team and you all have very high game understanding, then it does become that circumstance where this guy initiates with a good ability, but you use an item to counter it, and then the next person initiates to punish that guy that went in, but his team backs him up or hits the back line. And depending on the lineup, the fights can last 2 minutes sometimes if it gets really crazy. So yeah, it definitely gets all over the place. So let's cover some of that DPS slacking that happened. Play clip number 4, please. This is an example of a sniper auto-attacking with a set of items, and then we'll compare what his overall DPS is when he is not focused on moving. And this is one of the basic principles of team fighting that's extremely important, is that if you know your opponent is standing still and you're allowed to just auto-attack him at full power, then it's going to maximize your damage, and it's easier to make team fight decisions. So if this little guy is not stunned and you're more worried about kiting him, you're wasting some time moving, turning your hero, rather than just standing there and auto-attacking. So the DPS is like massively different. Maybe it was sloppy auto-attacking or something like that.
AFK hitting.
That's at some points in some team fights, you need to realize this guy is only going to be stunned for 1 second and he's almost dead. So I need to stand still and auto-attack, because I don't want to cancel my animation, because that could be one less auto-attack and then you don't get a kill. And then the hero earns up to full HP on the back line. Like, those are some of the things that you have to be considerate about.
Yeah, you know, I'm preparing to do Brood War videos whenever StarCraft Remastered drops. So I have no idea when it's happening. So I'm just sort of like sitting on these things. And, you know, in the micromanagement lesson, like, the first thing I bring up is don't move your units most of the time. Yeah. Any moment your unit is moving, it's not dealing damage. So the most important thing for you to know is that you kind of don't want to move your stuff very much at all. It's just, it's exactly this, where it's a third, dude. That's so ridiculous.
No, that's total damage.
I'm sorry,
that's
total damage.
Look at the DPS. It's still huge.
Still
it's like
half, right?
A little bit over half, but still a massive difference in DPS output.
Right.
Absolutely. So that kind of influences the team fights as well, because hypothetically, if you're initiating on a team fight and you do catch somebody and you stun them, then you know that that person is not going to move unless one of their allies uses a force staff or something like that, or some other kind of ability. And by him not moving, it makes your decision as the opposite side easier, because you know exactly how far you have to put yourself out of position to even cast a spell to follow up.
I feel like I'm understanding now why I've heard people say that Bristleback it's really important that he's there to disrupt the enemy carry. And is it the fact that the enemy carry is just having to move so much to try to stay
it's not always the carry. It doesn't necessarily apply just to the carry. It's like their whole team. Like, Bristle's so tanky that he can just run at them, and if they all focus him, he turns around to take reduced damage. And in the meantime, his allies should be able to follow up. So it's more like Bristle runs at them, and when you have a lineup that just runs at them, it's the same as Spirit Breaker. You run at them, and if they can't stop you from running at them with like a Tide Ravage or something, then they're running away. And because they're running away, they're not damaging, they're not maximizing themselves. So there's a lot of lineups, like if you pick like a Sniper, Drow Ranger, Crystal Maiden, like pick like all these ranged squishy heroes that can't stop their opponents from chasing at them, running at them. If you're in that lineup and you're up against like Bristleback, Spirit Breaker, and like 2 other tanky heroes, they just run at you and you can't stop them. And then you just kind of die repeatedly. So you always need, I mean, it's kind of usually called like a frontliner, but the principle is more, you need to be able to just like drop a line stun, like even an Earthshaker Fissure or something, to just stop them from running at you. That way it makes it easier for you to do follow-up. That way you can make a decision like, is it safe for us to take this team fight here? Things like that. Slows down the team fight kind of. Instead of putting the terror into them. So why don't you play clip number 5, and this will talk about some of these principles. So we're going to show some circles in a moment here, and I want you to pause pause the game when those come up.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for the circles. Okay, hold on. Hold on.
Okay, so what these kind of represent is a initiation confidence, which is kind of what I was talking about. Is, do you know that if you initiate that, or if you move towards your enemy team and get put in a dangerous area, that you're going to be able to follow up safely? Because, for example, let's say the yellow guy who has a low initiation range, we'll say it's an axe or something, let's say he walks towards green. By entering his sphere of influence, the green sphere of influence, he has this big range where he's viable to get disabled. And the backline, if they try to follow up on that, they have to move very slowly through the enemy's initiation of influence. But let's say maybe the yellow's a Pudge instead or something, and he hooks green to him, then everybody on the Radiant team knows they only need to move like 4 inches to go in. Because, for example, if they move forward to say, oh, I'll try to land a long-range spell on him, but then he moves back at the same time, then now they've moved towards the enemy a little bit and put themselves out of position. So by knowing that their opponent is disabled, it's a lot safer for them to say, I can take 2 steps forward, throw my stun out, then I know that this other guy is going to try to hook me or land his skill shot, and then you don't feel as dangerous about it. And a lot of confidence is a huge aspect of this.
I want to make sure I understand what these circles are. Like, take this purple circle. This purple character up in the top left, this would be the area in which purple can do some serious work. So this
basically like cast their spell.
Yeah, so this might be someone with a reasonably long range, like a Lina or a Drow, who could actually shit on some things here. Yeah. And so if this yellow one, we would say this is Axe, even though Axe often carries a blink dagger, so technically Axe could blink up here. The important thing is that this is about where Axe can actually have direct influence in a fight. That's why it's a small circle. Am I understanding what the circles mean correctly?
Yep, that's right. It's basically cast ranges, attack ranges, things like that, which is obviously all based on what the hero is.
Who the hero is, what items they have. So, what we might say is that this pink character might be a Slardart with a blink dagger. That's why this pink zone is so big, because he can just get in there fast.
Mm-hmm. So if you resume the clip there, they should start animating. You might need to pause at various points. So he's looking around, trying to think about if he wants to go in for a kill. He comes within spheres of influences. And then because of that, the Dire team can choose to initiate, for example. And then
at this point in time, we might say, okay, these two guys, it was in their zone of influence like just 2 seconds ago. And because they go in, these back characters were too far away. They didn't have a good enough zone of influence. So this is currently a 5v2 with 3 stragglers.
Yeah, which they'd have to then catch up to actually contribute to the fight. And in the meantime, it allowed a 4v2. But with that said, it's also now grouping up the Radiant heroes. So maybe if the Dire side has like a Magnus or something like that, they group up on their Bristleback, on the enemy Bristleback, and now it makes the RP easier. So there's a lot of little things like that should influence teamfight decision making. So those are just like basics. Obviously, it's not a great example in terms of exact hero stuff, but those are kind of the things that you need to think about, and it's easier just to use icons, I think, than actual in-game examples.
It still feels like there's some dead simple shit going on in terms of like me in a game mentally preparing, which is like I shouldn't be too far forward because he has a Pudge who can hook me in, or he has a lot of ranged characters and they can just shit on me from afar. And if we ever turn in a fight, we have to be super careful because they have a Chronosphere. Cool, boom, done. Those are the 2 big core concepts of the entire game. So now I can understand all clustering and positioning based on those 2 big core principles. And maybe if there's another big influencer in the fight, I have 3 big things I need to consider.
And that's exactly what you should be considering if you're playing well against big lineups. That's a place in Dota where I really struggle myself. I don't think ahead very much. I just kind of like play and react, which oftentimes causes me issues. And it's also made me really bad at Rubik, because to play Rubik correctly, you have to know what your opponents have, when they're likely to use it, so you can do things like, oh, we're initiating on their team, and we're kind of clumped. I bet the Tide is going to blink Ravage us, and that means you mentally get ready for that, which makes it easier when the Tide does blink Ravage. Because you're ready for it, and then you steal Ravage, and then it completely changes the game. So if you don't forward think on heroes like Rubik, then your hero is just shit compared to other potential grabs as a pick.
That makes sense. It's like linking an action to a response.
And predicting it before they do it. Which you can definitely do at high MMRs.
You just sort of load that into your brain.
Yep. So you should be able to look at the enemy lineup and think, if we take a 5v5, what hero do I want to dive on? What are my capabilities as a hero? If you're Dazzle, for example, you want to hide in trees so that you can grave your ally that they might go on. And if it's Storm Spirit, you really want to hide, because if he goes on you and kills you first, then nobody gets a grave because he's going to silence you.
Yeah.
So lots of stuff like that you have to consider. So that's initiation confidence, kind of. Again, a lot of it is just knowing, are they stunned? Is it going to be easy for us to initiate? Like, you played games, somebody gets arrowed by Mirana, and your team's like, let's go, easy stuff. You have 5 seconds to walk in. You can follow up with a stun. You know that guy won't move. It's easy, right? That's the kind of stuff that can make knowing whether Teamfight's good a little bit easier. So, all right, so other stuff that you have to consider. We talked a lot about ally skills, things like, do I know what kind of damage types my allies have? Are we going to be able to get the kill? This is a lot like ganking, like knowing, are you going to be able to chain stun this guy? Are you trying to gank a Juggernaut? In which case, if you are, then you need to disable him before he spins, because if he spins, then he dodges your spells. He gets 5 seconds of running. All that stuff should influence your knowledge of being able to just play the game and the team fights and use your skills in the right order, knowing what's at stake if he doesn't get unstunned, for example. I think we have an example of that. Could we jump to, let's go clip number 6. Wait, 7, sorry.
7, analytical. This is the analytical clip,
yes.
This one? Boom!
Yep, the one that we just got. So this is a game from Epicenter. So this was a strategy that Liquid did often, which was putting Lone Druid mid. And the reason they did this is because it's very safe to do, because you have you're pretty decent at mid, playing mid. You can get most of the last hits. You won't like dominate your opponent, but you'll do pretty well. But the real benefit is what they did in this clip. So once you play it over one more time and see what Matumba Man did here to survive.
I'm actually going to slow... Whoa! I accidentally rewound to previous clips. I have to hit this button. There we go. Okay, so what did Matumba Man do?
Stunned by the Sand King.
Stunned by the Sand King.
And there's a Treant over there as well. So a lot of disable, a lot of right click.
Well, I mean, he's having his bear do some chipping.
Okay.
Oh, and then he feared this man away. Like as these two were in tower range, that's when he feared this.
It's not necessarily because of the tower range, but the important thing was that the high damage dealer is the Shadow Fiend in this example, because those are 2 roaming supports that are probably no more than level 4, and the Shadow Fiend probably has maybe level 3 raises, which probably do like, what, 250 damage or something, 225? I don't remember what the numbers are, they've been changed. But because he roars the one hero that does a lot of damage, if those 2 roaming heroes can't do enough damage to kill him, then it turns this 3v1 into a 2v1 that he can run. Eventually, he can basically survive and get away.
Oh, shit.
So Liquid kept doing this to make sure that it was very difficult to gank Lone Druid mid.
And so, I think that there's almost this misconception that pro players see a situation and in the instant come up with a solution and execute it. When in reality, what we might do is link what we see here back to what you were just saying about mental preparation, where we're going to put Lone Druid mid, because if anyone tries to gank Lone Druid, we will simply fear the big damage dealer away with the bear.
Mm-hmm.
And so in every single fight, we are prepared for this little play.
So with that in mind, what hero would you want to pick instead of Shadow Fiend if you wanted to counteract this strategy from Liquid, the Lone Druid mid? What would be a solution to this? The hero can roar, Savage Roar, to create the fear thing where they have to run to base, and the bear can roar. They share the same cooldown though. So how would you solve this problem?
I'm going to think out loud. So some of the things I'm thinking are, okay, well, we could try to kill the bear fast. So if we have someone who's able to deal a lot of damage to the bear, but I think Shadow Fiend would be fine at that anyways.
The bear has like 2600 HP.
And was like a 50-second respawn time on the spell.
120. It's pretty long, but killing the bear is completely unrealistic, especially early game.
So, I mean, would a melee hero be a reasonable choice that you are often on the other side of the bear anyways, or...
That's not safe because the bear would get free hits on you, and that wouldn't really work.
I guess the only other thing that I can think of is you have to get a stun, but I mean, this is the... I am now done with every possible analysis I'm capable of coming up with.
So here's some possibilities. You'd have to chain stun both the bear and the druid, which is difficult to do because they can run independently, and the bear is probably far away from the hero. That's first issue, or first problem with that. You could also perhaps silence the bear. Like if you have Night Stalker, you could silence the bear, just try to kill the Lone Druid himself maybe. But I think the easiest way to do it is just to get a really mobile mid hero. That way when the bear goes to roar, Or if the initiation happens, that instantly all 3 heroes are there. Because if you go back and play it again...
Queen of Pain. You could get Queen of Pain and blink straight up on that shit. Boom. Okay.
Because then the bear might then be out of position. If he doesn't roar, like, look at the start again. Go all the way to the beginning, and imagine that Shadow Fiend is a Queen of Pain instead.
Yeah.
So here comes the gank.
Here comes
Burrow
the
strike
gank,
right now.
And then blink over right now, right?
And do damage, yeah. And in the meantime, the Lone Druid's stunned, which means that by the time he becomes unstunned, you move your hero away a little bit. That way, when he tries to roar you, it won't hit. And look, I mean, he got really low. He was down to, what, 200 HP? That means any one nuke and maybe one right-click and he dies in this circumstance, which completely changes the early game. But because the Shadow Fiend had to walk forward to get a right-click off, or to get a raise off and a right-click, Machoma Man ends up living because he used Savage Roar, and because he always roots on the first hit. At the right time. So, yeah, Queen of Pain was actually here that ended up getting banned against this strategy in the second phase. I don't remember what series it was, but it was something that did happen. Or maybe you could pick a PA to do the same thing. It's not. I wouldn't want to lane it against a Lone Druid, but it would solve some of those issues that you could gap close.
Sure. So this is the same clip that we just saw?
I believe so. I do not 100% remember why it was included, but maybe you can just press play
a great clip.
We can figure it out.
Yeah, it looks like speeding it up. Showing the set of abilities. Oh my god, Ethereal Blade, that's so tight, man.
Pudge gets a hook out to save the guy that's going to die, steals Chrono. I think we already watched this. I don't remember what this is. Yeah, we'll just move on.
Hey, sick, dope, boss, ballin'. Sick, kick-ass, boss ass.
To another clip number 8, please. So, more abilities to play around. Terrorblade's a really good example of a hero like that. You ever played against a TB? Oh,
yeah. I think Terrorblade is so cool. Oh, man.
So the dangerous thing is Sunder, right? That he can swap his HP level with you or somebody else that's nearby. Yeah. So what's the best way to kill Terrorblade to prevent Sunder from happening?
I mean, get him low and then stun him instead of stun him and then get him low.
Okay. Or just chain stun him so you can't cast spells or silence him.
Sure, I mean, I don't know how powerful an answer I'm allowed to give, you know, I can't be like be 10 levels ahead of him, so nothing he does matters anyways, you know.
That's fine. You can grab 2 heroes with stuns, or 3 heroes with stuns, or you can grab a lion, and then so you can do 4 seconds of hex, and then you can do Earth Spike for 2.5 seconds. That's 6.5 seconds to disable. Or you can pick a Legion Commander, and you can just duel him, which prevents him from actually casting abilities. So let's see how they react. There's Legion in this game. The Ricky puts down the Smoke Cloud right away. And then I believe the Legion initiates, if I'm not mistaken.
Oof.
He's in there, but the problem is that he's silenced. What the Legion actually should have done is just press her BKB, because then she would have been able to cast a spell in the silence. So like little things like that change the fight, because then the Sunder goes off on the Bounty Hunter. The Bounty Hunter almost dies. And the Clockwork takes more damage. And like just understanding these small nuanced things, like as I engage on a Terrorblade, I know that I cannot let him press Sunder, because if we do, we're probably going to mess up the gank, and as a result, more of us will die than need to, and the fight will go completely different. So as you take those fights, you have to think, how do my skills fit together? Clockwork can hookshot him, he can cog him in, then we need to instantly do like a blink duel to follow up on that to guarantee he doesn't Sunder. That should be your thought process as you initiate a fight. Or if you initiate on a TB, you should think, we got to be really worried about Sunder, and that should influence your teamfight decision making in those circumstances.
And I mean, what I like about how you're framing it is that there's the one big thing: make sure Sunder doesn't go off. That's the one big thing, and then there's the nuance of how the individual pieces fit together. But you shouldn't be entering into the battle trying to consider 800 pieces. You should be going into the battle trying to consider, how do I avoid the big Sunder, and then kind of problem solve from there.
And a lot of that gets deeper as well when you start thinking about items, because there will be an item that somebody grabs that makes it trickier. Like if TB buys a Lincoln Sphere, for example, then the Legion Commander knows that he has to break the Lincolns before he can even duel, which either means he needs to have an extra item, or somebody else has to break it for him. That way he doesn't waste his duel on the Lincolns. So once you get comfortable with items as well as the heroes, then that's your next level of depth of decision making. That'll make it harder to play the game correctly, especially if you don't check items and all of a sudden it surprises you you waste Sunder on, or you waste duel on Lincolns,
Yeah.
and then the whole fight becomes easy for the enemy team. So
Sure.
being up to date on that stuff is really important. So why don't you play clip number 9? We can talk about itemization.
Oh my god, my favorite clip, the 9th one.
Another game. Oh, in a moment you can pause here. This we'll show another. I'll talk about that in a sec. So these are some basic items that influence team fights a lot. The left side is items that you will probably want to use in various ways, and the right side is items that will counter them. So there's a lot of like game theory about buying items at a certain time and then reacting to it in a certain way. So for the top one, Black King Bar makes you magic immune for up to 10 seconds.
Dude, this is me with Zeus. Like, let me tell you, all the spellcastery Nuki characters I play, I'm like, when this motherfucker gets this thing, I'm out of here. Like,
exactly. He uses BKB. God. You can't do anything for 10 seconds, so you just want to make sure that you can get away from him for hopefully 10 seconds until his BKB ends. Whether that's Abyssal, a Force Staff, Yule's kind of works. Blink Dagger can be good for that too. I mean, you could basically, for almost every single item on the left side, you could put Glimmer Cape, Force Staff, Yule's Scepter, Blink Dagger. Like, you could put all those items all over that stuff because they're so good at keeping you alive in a lot of circumstances. But
can you explain the Yule's and Ghost Scepter countered by Diffusal? That one's weird for me.
The Diffusal active will apply a soft debuff or a soft purge, and it will instantly remove your Yule's state or your Ghost Scepter state.
You can slurp them out of the sky?
Yep, with a Diffusal Blade. Happened all the time at Epicenter.
Fuck.
Yep.
No way.
It's very standard against Ghost Scepter, but I think it was, I don't know if it's always been there against Yule's, but it was added at the least recently. But it might have been always there, don't remember. But yeah, really good reason to have Diffusal Blade, because it counters those items that make it impossible for you to attack. So there's a lot of times as an Ursa, you'll see him pick up Diffusal Blade. It's not really because Diffusal Blade's amazing with the hero. It's just because if they get a Ghost Scepter, you want to have that shut down, because if you initiate as Ursa, you need to kill somebody in your initiation or you're going to have problems, because it's hard to get out and reinitiate again on the right person. So if you just get Diffusal Blade, you shut down that 1,500 gold purchase with your Diffusal Blade. So any of these other ones you don't understand. The Blink Dagger one, for example. Do you understand what that
Blink, if you get earned, you're taking periodic damage, which continuously disables Blink. Actually, I'm going to go through them. Here's my understanding. Okay. BKB, Abyssal Blade stun goes through it. Force Staff lets you get away, and there's often lots of melee characters who get this, so run away from them. Blink, this is periodic damage, and of course, counter Blink. You blink on me, I'm gone, man. Poof in, poof out. We have 2 Invisibilation things. I recently learned that I think it's the range creep in Necronomicon.
It's the melee.
It's the melee. And is the ranged one the one that deals you 1 billion damage if you kill it? Or is that
That's the melee as well. The melee does True Strike, it does Mana Burn with its right clicks, and if you kill it, it does damage. The ranged one does a damage and attack speed aura, and has a Mana Burn active that's really effective.
They're both so insane.
225.
So, Invisibilation, Detection, you just explained this one. This is Bloodthorn and Orchid Malevolence, which I assume is all about the silence you're referring to. Manta gets you out of silence, Yule's gets you out of silence. Lotus Orb, doesn't it just silence them right back, but you're still silenced?
If you have it active on you and they use Orchid on you, you will be silenced, and they will also become silenced. But if they use Orchid on you and then you apply Lotus Orb applies a soft dispel upon use, which means you could buy Lotus Orb to instantly remove silence. So if you're against a silencer and you're playing Batrider, you can wait until he pops Global Silence, you can Lotus Orb yourself, which removes Global, and then you can initiate to take a team fight, if you want to.
Damn.
Guardian Greaves, upon use, also does a soft dispel.
And then we have Satanic and Lincoln Sphere, which is countered. So Satanic is countered by the Halberd because they have a huge attack speed boost for a few seconds. Turn off their auto attack.
Satanic gives lifesteal. So when you activate, it gives you ultra attack or ultra lifesteal.
Then I must have just been wrong there. I literally thought that
You're thinking of Mask of Madness, I think.
I sincerely thought that Satanic boosted lifesteal and attack speed. I didn't realize it was just...
No attack speed. Have you ever built Satanic in your life? Because I feel like it's an item that's never really come up.
A shitload, actually, with Viper. That's why I'm very, very surprised. I just, you know, I was certain that I was correct, and I was wrong, and that's okay.
That's fine.
But yeah, so, I mean, still the concept is key, you know. Big buff on auto attack, turn off the auto attack. And with Lincoln Sphere, you can cast Halberd and pop it, which I have done all the time as Legion Commander. You just pop the Lincolns with Halberd, and then you duel. Auto attacks countered by turning off auto attacks, turning auto attacks against them, or becoming a Yost.
Yep. Or Force Staff would work there, Glimmer Cape would work there if they don't have detection, stuff like that too. And then finally Abyssal and Hex.
Yeah, man.
Countered by Lincolns, obviously, right?
You want to turn me into a thing?
So this is a game from Epicenter here. Secret kept drafting a lot of PA, and in this one, if you look at the PA's items, they kind of suck, but it makes sense why they did it. And you can really feel it in the first like 10 seconds of that team fight. They have Aegis on PA, and basically EG couldn't do anything for the first 10 seconds. PA just gets to attack as much as she wants. And ultimately EG did win this fight because they're insane. But if you go and watch it again, it's all due to having the BKB. So while the PA has no damage, the idea was that they would use the BKB to try to kill the Warlock before Warlock contributes anything.
And I mean, the big ult comes down, but it didn't get a group stun, so there's just a big annoying.
And there's no fatal bonds.
Yep. And fatal bonds is ridiculous, man.
It's very good. And the PA was able to jump on Sumail without having to worry about being attacked because an OD can't orb against magic immunity, and he can't use his ultimate, and he can't banish the person. So he just had to buy time for himself, which he did very well. Sumail played that like ridiculously good, and they end up winning the fight. But that's the goal of BKBs, to offset some team fight advantage that you just can't work around. It's very often purchased against Tidehunters, for example, because you know he's going to pop Ravage. Therefore, you jump in and you're like, go ahead, man, Ravage one of my heroes, and see if I kill 2 of yours in the meantime, is the goal with the BKB.
Yes.
So, one more clip, Teamfight Adjustments number 10. This was a game from maybe DAC or something. I don't remember. But we almost used it for an old episode, but I think we never ended up playing it. It was OG on the Radiant and EG on the Dire side. This must have been DAC because Monkey King's in the game. But it was a pretty good fight for OG, and then EG ended up getting a good RP, and then the Ember bought back and ended up like...
I remember this game so clearly. You did show this clip. You showed the Ana coming in. Yeah, I remember this fight. So
ultimately, he lost a lot of gold by buying back for that team fight, but the important thing is that it also changes like some of the team fight stuff in terms of having to consider fighting around a potential buyback or a 6th hero. You have to kill 6 maybe, or actually in this case, OG had a Aegis and they had a buyback. So that was like EG had to kill like 7 heroes there to actually win that fight. And at the end, I think they did end up losing gold advantage from it, just because of the expense of the buyback and the fact that Ember got all the kills, so it was all reduced gold. But ultimately, it was very good for them because it allowed them to get a Rax against EG. So that's another thing you have to consider in team fights. Do you know any heroes that are really good at that, at like buying back and getting there right away, other than Ember?
Tinker comes to mind.
Yep, Tinker's good.
Nature's Prophet, Kevin.
Sure.
Go green.
Spectre is really good as well, because if you haven't used your ultimate yet, you can hunt back in.
I mean, I want to say anytime someone gets travel boots, and then slightly more nuanced is who often has travel boots, which would be those heroes. So I guess like Invoker would often get there.
Yep, that's exactly right. Okay, so that's a lot of the things so you need to consider in team fights, and now we can look at some team fight clips if you want. The ones that you downloaded prior.
Yep, these are the bonus clips.
So these are just going to be examples from a player perspective, and I want you to occasionally pause and talk about how decision making has changed.
Let me just hold Sheriff close to me because we got afternoon snuggle time starting.
Okay.
I've been out of town, so she's been low on these.
Oh yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and start it. I'm gonna lean back so that way she can snug properly.
So if you pause really quick, at this point, I think the most important principle to keep in mind is that they've been chasing the PA for a very long time.
Yeah, okay, so I was going to say there is one adjustment I've made when doing stuff like this, because I do shit like this all the time. I've just been glancing at the minimap, and I look for the 1 or 2 heroes that could really fuck me up, and if I see them somewhere far away, I just keep chasing. And that's it.
That's great, yeah. Because you definitely have to be worried about, like, if the Earthshaker shows up right there and dunks 3 heroes, it could be a really big swing.
Good lord. Uh-oh. Yeah, this is how I do it. Okay. Alright, that was the end of that.
Okay, you can play the next one.
Yeah, the big thing is just that if you have a hero who you've been chasing for a long time, you got to be really sure and really careful and start checking things.
That they're not going to show up. Also, the Nyx showing up obviously changed stuff.
Yeah.
You just press play on these. It's totally cool. We got a couple and there's not.
Yeah.
There's definitely some nuance that we can discover from it, but...
What a good cat.
Alright, you'll pause right here.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, you can pause every quarter of a second. Like, just go back before the Shadow Fiend even breaks his invis.
Okay.
You see that the Pudge has a gem, for example?
Yeah.
So he sees the Shadow Fiend. And what is his thought here as the Shadow Fiend goes into vision?
His thought is, well, I feel like I'm almost embarrassed how simple this answer is. Aha, a Shadow Fiend. I can hook and lock him down, and my team can come and help kill.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So his goal is, okay, maybe the Shadow Fiend will stay in Viz, and I can disable him because he doesn't realize that I see him. And then my team can get there. That's exactly right. So press play, and then resume when things change.
Yeah. And I would note that the big error that you can do here as Pudge is to just shit your pants and throw the hook out immediately without at least taking a moment to ask if your team's nearby.
Yeah,
Isn't that right, Sheriff?
It's definitely one of the things you could do. Have you played Pudge before? It sounds like it.
I've never actually played Pudge before, but I have been in the situation where I'm Lena running around with my Shadow Blade, and I get hooked by a Pudge, and I'm like, ah, shit. He uses his ult, I'm at half health, and then I walk home safely.
Yeah.
I'm like, very well, give him cake.
Alright, pause here.
Okay.
Alright, you missed it. Go back. Go back.
Shit, sorry, the cat keeps knocking my earphones out. She doesn't like when I have my headphones in because she just really wants to put her head into my ear. Okay. Okay, what was the question? What was the question, Kevin?
Alright, go back to when Shadow Fiend starts attacking the Pudge.
Okay. Okay, I promise you I want to do that. I want to do it. It's just so hard right now.
Okay, stop there. So Shadow Fiend breaks his invis, starts attacking Pudge, which reveals what?
Which reveals what reveals him.
Well, like, how does the decision-making change, basically?
I think Oh, the Pudge immediately uses his ult, but saves his hook.
For what reason?
That he's locking him down so he can get close, and then if he tries to get far, he can bring him back. So this is to buy the maximum amount of time possible for his teammates.
Because ideally, he would rather sit there for a couple seconds, hope the Shadow Fiend didn't click on his hero, and waited to attack, right? But because the Shadow Fiend attacked, he needs to react instantly. So that decision-making changes. And then he does Dismember because it's more reliable than trying to land a long-range hook.
And there's that, and then the hook's probably coming up.
And he ran for what reason?
The Bounty Hunter showed up with the mega tracks, so...
It was more that if he stayed, the Shadow Fiend would definitely kill him before he died. Before he got the Shadow Fiend kill. So he had to run away.
And that is specifically true because the Bounty Hunter showed up, or just in general?
No, the Shadow Fiend would definitely kill him first, regardless. You can go back and check it.
I think I will, Kevin. Oh, shit, yeah. It's like a lot of damage per hit.
Now, the Pudge probably could have hooked the Shadow Fiend there after the stun happened.
Oh.
That one was a skill shot for sure, so it was a little bit unreliable. The other important thing that he did was he didn't earn himself until the bounty had already done damage to him with Shuriken.
Yeah.
But these are all like decision-making things that you can easily make. And here he'd love to hook the PA, but unfortunately there's creeps in the way, so it wasn't really possible.
Oh.
This is one of the downsides to not having like a force staff or a blink on Pudge, is that even if there's a creep in the way, sometimes you just won't be able to land the disable.
I gotta play me some Pudge, dude.
All right, so let's go back. I did it automatically in the clip here, but we're going to go back and watch the Quap's perspective in this fight as well, because she did initiate in this.
Okay.
No, go back. Press play, I mean.
Oh.
It hasn't framed it correctly yet. Okay, now you can go as slow as you want. So she sees the Puck, right? Puck's pretty low. She's got a Blade Mail and a Yules, and she's got really good damage, but she doesn't have Disable, so Puck can probably dodge the damage.
Yeah.
So how does she initiate and ulti the Puck? And don't press play here. How would she initiate and kill the Puck without him reacting with phase shift or phase shift in a blink or something? What's the best way?
I would. I don't know if this is correct, but you could blink up here where she's out of sight and go for it. But I don't know if I'm trying to be too next level and not basic enough. But
I wouldn't want to do that because then you're limited to be in that position for 5 seconds until your blink comes up. But I think it's the right thought path. The easier way to do it is your ultimate actually has a really long range. It's a cone. So you could ulti from the low ground and then blink as it's about to hit and scream. Because then your damage output and him knowing that you're there is lined up perfectly so that he has less time to react because you're lacking a stun. And unfortunately the Puck left. So at that point, missing the ultimate, it's not even good for him to initiate, really.
Yeah, so because the ultimate was whiffed, it's time to get out of Texas. Whew.
pause again. So what does he do here? He's got an empty bottle. That's an illusion rune, man.
Gets unbelievably tempted and goes for the bottle, which seems like a mistake. Because, I mean, I feel like this character could have blinked back previously. Well, like, if I look back here-ish during this run,
yeah.
I feel like you can blink back this way more safely.
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. Especially because then they wouldn't have line vision on you. And definitely blink to the high ground there instead of that little alcove that forced him to walk around. That was very dangerous. Ah.
This is the scariest thing I've ever seen. It both looks so skillful, but like so unnecessary to be in that position in the first place.
Yeah, and even that that last blink was dangerous because it was daytime. He could have blinked inside the trees, then TP'd. Whereas by blinking to the right of the trees, the tower next to him spotted him, which meant that his opponents had a better chance to maybe disable him there. So those are like lots of little habits that you need to adjust. I think we have a couple more clips so we can power through.
Power, power, power! Go, 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 go!
Grabbed another Teamfight clip.
So
what is that? Do you think the Knicks did the right thing here?
Let me rewatch. I've done this a lot. I mean, it feels like I generally as Knicks try to be careful about just hurling a stun out and just like la la la, just doing that sort of thing because it's so hard to kill without a friend. I don't know if Nyx actually saw the other. Well, I mean, technically Nyx does see the other person there, so I guess so far it's fine. And at this point, I guess the only question is, when is he going to use his E? And he's saving it, which seems fine.
I actually think it was a terrible idea to wait this long to use it, because at this point when he uses it, he's so low that pretty much anything will kill him. Yeah. So you can be more choicey as the aggressor about when to actually use your nuke. We should pause and go back because there's a lot of stuff there that we need to cover. So the part that he should have probably spiked Carapace was the Scream of Pain on Queen right there.
Yeah, that.
Because that would have reflected at least 300 damage towards the Quap. But by using it just here, okay, you stunned the Quap, but she reapplied Shadow Strike, which is going to kill you anyways. And now she knows that she can safely do a Blink Scream. And this moment's really crucial too as well. Puck uses Orb, I think. Actually go back a little bit. A little bit more. Okay, right there. Sorry, just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more. Okay.
Okay, so keep an eye on the puck now.
So there's the orb. That's the big escape tool.
Yep.
So then he's going to do that.
No, that was Quap using Yules.
Okay, so that Quap used the Yules to ensure that Puck would not have the opportunity to transfer to the Mega Ball.
Yes.
Because he would be all up in the air.
Which now creates what opportunity?
An opportunity to shit on Goodbye Felicia without any escape opportunities.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And then watch how he plays it now. Because if you're going on Puck the way that the Quap plays it, in this circumstance, when he still has Orb up, it's really dangerous, right? Because guaranteeing the kill is tough.
Yeah, like blinking right on here under the tower. I mean, that's such a recipe for disaster if the Orb is up, because she just scoots away.
Yep. And generally, he still did it really stupid and it was sloppy, because he broke the Dream Coil. He used Blade Mail, so he reflected the damage a little, but it was kind of stupid how he did it. Yeah. But the actual US play was good. And these are like, once you get into higher level teamfight stuff, those are your windows. They're like 5 seconds where you have the potential to get a kill. So this is a much lower level game, but I thought it had some good logic that we could look at in terms of pushing stuff. So we're looking at the perspective of the Chaos Knight to start, and it shifts a couple times as I make the clip. So
okay, so I want to just take a moment to see who's here. We have a Pudge, we have Disruptor, and we have a Chaos Knight. Okay, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this Disruptor is going to be hooked.
There's a hook up the ass right there. That's for sure. Yeah. It's definitely inside the Disruptor already.
Okay. Oh shit. Oh my god. Hold on. My cat is on the space bar. Oh, for God's sake. Okay. There we go. The cat was like unpausing. Okay. So Disruptor is just insta dead. Mm-hmm. Didn't even get to participate.
They take the tower. And how does the Dire team respond right now? What's the right thing to do? Disruptor's dead for 20. Enemy team's pushing. They gotta look at the heroes they have. They have a Tidehunter, Anti-Mage, Pudge, Sniper, Bane.
I would play pretty fucking cautiously, or even just like let the tower fall at this point, because like I mean, there's a Ravage here, so you don't want to group up. There's a Pudge here, so you don't want to stand still. There's a Sniper here, so you're getting chipped on anyways. And, I mean, Bane's the man. I don't even know where Anti-Mage is.
And consider the map as well from last time we had an episode. Is it easy for Dire to defend this tier 2?
No, hell no. Are you kidding me?
Especially against a Pudge, right?
Yeah,
like he can just stand in the trees and he can hook basically anything. So, tell me when things change.
Okay, so they're pulling back. So right now, I would say this is fine. We see Monkey King with a very clear escape angle to this tree and the other tree up here. We see Chaos Knight running. All horses are go into the retreat. And this Bane is too far forward.
For what reason?
Well, for the reason that Bane is squishy and has really no good way to protect himself other than a self-nightmare.
And also, Reality Rift pulls somebody further out of position is the other thing.
Yeah, yeah. Was literally about to say that next.
I believe you. Alright, pause. Was there any mistakes there?
So, I think that Chaos Knight should have Chaos Bolted instantly in order to break the sleep.
Correct. For what reason?
That it just cancels sleep, so it's, you know.
Nope, that's not why.
Why?
Because it gives the Radiant team more time to react. Go back and watch it again. Look at the difference between the Reality Rift and the Chaos Bolt. You're right that he needed to cast it earlier, but the reason was not because it breaks the sleep. It's because you do not want to delay. You don't want to give your opponents more time to get their spheres of influence closer to your heroes. If this guy's out of position, you want him out of position instantly, and you want to kill him as fast as possible.
So, my initial reaction was, aren't those the same thing? But in a sense, it's like you're giving the reason and I'm giving the actual move. Like, the Chaos Bolt will break the sleep and stun him, but the reason you want to do that as fast as humanly possible is to prevent your opponents from getting more time.
To give them, to give them less opportunity to react to you punishing this guy out of position.
So the fact that he went wait right there was about a full second of time. So this could have been instant kill.
Mm-hmm. How do you think the Monkey? Do you think the Monkey King reacted well there?
Well, let me try to remember before I actually rewind and look and tell you. He may have layered the stun on top, but probably should have jumped down to immediately kill as well to deal more damage. Like, yeah, that was an off timing, but also jumping back this way seems unnecessary. Like, just jumping right into the thick of things would have been more reasonable, I guess.
Yeah, might have worked. Yeah, I agree with that.
There, he's there now. Bye!
Pause. Mistakes made.
Let me stop.
Feel free to go back if you need to.
Yeah, what I want to do is I want to try to think more from memory instead of like from the actual fight, because I mean, these team fights happen so quickly that I'm almost lazy about it, where I don't think about it and then I watch it 4 times and I'm like, okay, I learned my lesson, but I'm not like actually being predictive about anything. So I think the Monkey King needed to jump down quite quickly and
like, if I was the Monkey King and I knew that the Bane was out of position, I would have probably started channeling my leap while he was out of position, with the knowledge that Chaos Knight would also recognize that and initiate at a similar time.
Yeah.
Whereas instead, the Monkey King going in was like 7 seconds after the Chaos Knight used Reality Rift, comboing with like the Nightmare. Like, he could have just gone in there instantly, and that would have been better as a move.
After that, I want to say after that moment, I feel like for the most part everything was intuitive, like just Monkey King running in. Like that is the funniest thing ever. And I mean, the fact that Monkey King is just retreating right now seems completely fine. I don't think there's anything else Monkey King could possibly do.
Sniper tries to use his ult there as well, but he's looking at the Medusa, so he gets disabled, which prevents his ulti from coming out.
Holy shit, I cannot believe that team turned it around. And also, how does Pudge always deny himself every time?
Because his opponents are bad at doing damage at the right time. That's why.
LOL, LOL.
So if you just pause it right now, you can look at the damage done in the fight. And you can see how, like, bad some of these numbers are. Like,
so
Tide did almost nothing.
Bane
Disruptor did nothing.
Didn't do anything.
Bane did nothing, actually.
Monkey King had the opportunity to do more and didn't. I'm real impressed at this Disruptor.
You shouldn't be. He died like 16 times this game. It was
what? God.
If I looked at his net worth on the chart and it was like flat. It was one of those ones where this guy at the bottom of the game and everybody else is like continuing to live their life and he did not. He was
Dude,
just
hey, I've had games like those.
poor.
It's good. It's good to get those. It's good to hit rock bottom. Bottoming out's a good feeling. You gotta embrace that, you know.
At least he never got to taste what it was like to have items. Ignore the giant flying tree. I didn't want to reload the clip and take it again.
What the
It will.
Kevin, I'm not ignoring it. Look at that huge tree, man. Look at this shit.
Just paused at the wrong time, that's all.
Just ignore the tree. All right, well, I think the first thing that's going wrong is that there's a gigantic tree at the south end of the clip. Okay, holy shit. I have not even absorbed any of the heroes. Look, guys, this is the first frame of the clip that Kevin chose to provide to me. He looked at that and said, good enough. And you know what? It's not that it was good enough. It's that this is ideal. This is the best clip we've ever seen.
I would have had to close the replay, reload it, jump to this point in time, and then take the clip. And I was like, nope, I'm not willing to do that right now. It was a little bit last minute. Okay, so you're thinking about Chaos now, right?
Yep.
Think about your teamfight decision making here. Who do you want to go on?
Who do I want to go on? Not Tidehunter by any means. Ideally, it would be the Sniper at the back. Bane is fine as well, but Sniper would be my absolute choice character, unless the Tidehunter was so far out of position.
So pause it as soon as things change. You missed it a little bit. It already changed. There were new heroes on the minimap.
Yeah, so it is, here is the big moment, right? Purge is like, surprise, motherfucker, and then a variety of things is happening here. So I wouldn't necessarily say that the Ravage is a significant change. More so just like you don't need to worry about it anymore as much. I mean, it got 2, which is fine. But now at this point, I feel like maybe reality rifting this to try to escape or something like that.
He's fucking dead, Sean.
Okay.
So he got too focused on the Sniper, basically, which resulted in him eating pretty much worst case scenario. He also didn't have his ultimate up, which when approaching that fight is something you kind of need to be more survivable. Ignore the tree.
I'm so relieved that the answer is he's fucking dead. I was trying so hard to think of a way out, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't figure it.
Yeah. Maybe armlet toggles. But...
Surprise, motherfucker.
If he had his ultimate, maybe he makes that work. The Monkey King as well should have probably ultied before he used his stun.
Because now it's like you just said he's dead, Sean. Like like the most indifferent soldier on the battlefield. No, dude, he's dead.
But basically, the whole initiation was just real shit for the Dire team.
And the big reason that it was shitty is that the Dire hero walked, and if I look at the minimap, he was walking down from this side. Up and at an angle, and his entire left side was super vulnerable due to A, no vision, and B, a warp-in point right there.
Yeah. Whereas on the Dire side, or the Radiant side, the Tide was in the front spotting heroes. So the Radiant team could make better decisions about where to move in the fight. So vision definitely changes a lot of teamfight decision makings, and that's why like things change every fraction of a second. It's because you'll get more information. And this is the biggest reason that you want to move your screen a lot, and why it's important to have really fast edge panning, because it allows you to gather more info that could change your decision making. So now we're going to focus on Sniper here. It's currently peeping away. Some good stuff.
All right. Right now, just needs to right click.
Does he?
What the hell's happening?
He is Shadow Amuleted.
Oh my god, he could have gotten kills.
Could he have? That was a lot of heroes. This is the disruptor that died 14 times or whatever.
Poor guy. Right clicking this.
Alright. Mistakes?
You
can watch it again from the beginning of that fight if you want.
Yeah, okay. So here's my full analysis. So shooting this Monkey King, great. That's great. That's really good. Shoot him, kill him, great. Poor Tidehunter's gone. I think just turning and shooting this right away. Like,
keep in mind he doesn't know if that's an illusion, so we're kind of cheating here by being a spectator. But
that is true. I would shoot once at least.
But if he gets stunned in Reality Rift, he could die really fast because Chaos Knight does a lot of damage.
So I think that guy should have Shadow Amuleted right away, I guess.
Yeah, it could work. You got glimpses as well.
Mega Science. I think that this is fine now.
Yeah,
Once
I think he reacted pretty well, especially with the Deuce on the left using her ulti and the Invoker as well. Like, I think he made the right choice sitting Invis here. He should be looking at the Chaos Knight, which one's real. That should be another aspect. And ultimately, at this point, Disruptor can't stop this from happening because he doesn't have any items. All right, now at this point, go back and pause there.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is Invis again time.
He could even like throw in a TP for his wand, and then go Invis while TPing. But the more crucial moment, I think, is right when shit hits the fan again. The point that you said he should be Invis. Go pause it right there, which is, I'll say the moment. It'll be in like 2 seconds. Keep going. And then like right here, pause. Look at the heroes. You can see Chaos Knight barely at the top of the screen. You got a Medusa down here. He's got no lifesteal, so he basically has to kill these guys or he dies.
It's very sad.
And how does he react? If you want to press play and go really slowly, or pause again. Okay.
There's an Invoker there too, become invisible!
Yes, that would be one aspect. Or at the least, cast Shrapnel instantly. Because you know these guys are going to jump on you because you're a sniper, you're vulnerable, you're out of position. Therefore, you put Shrapnel right on top of yourself because you know you can predict where they're going to be. And you need to put that down ASAP because you need to max the damage that it does before you die. Because if you put that down instantly, he actually kills the Chaos Knight probably before he dies. But instead, he casted it later. He casted Shrapnel like right now. And at that point, he's already at half HP.
Gosh, you know...
So just reading the team fight gives you small edges. Like, oh, I'm a sniper. They're going to fucking kill me. Put Shrapnel on top of my body.
I think I need to put even more emphasis on throwing my abilities out early, because I think the number of times that you have said that to me, you do this right away. You do it immediately. You do it right away. With a few exceptions, like, hold on to that ability for a second. Jesus, don't throw it out. Just give it a second. I think I need to be more mentally prepared, I guess I'd say. Like, okay, I'm playing sniper this game. If at any point shit hits the fan, I need to shrapnel right away and try to kill, or instantly go invis and TP. Like, just, here are my two things, I'm ready.
Because it's always about recognizing how your opponents are going to react. I know playing sniper in this circumstance, they are going to try to kill him after he kills the Disruptor. Therefore, when they really gap close in, you know I'm out of position right now. I need to fight to the death as effectively as possible and kill as many people as I can before I die. Or do the option. So, yeah, definitely a little bit of forethought can help a lot. Alright, that's pretty much all I got. So maybe it won't cover all aspects of team fights, but hopefully that lays a better groundwork and can help you start analyzing mistakes you made during team fights. Yeah, or what would have made them go better.
I think the big things that I'm taking away from this is, one, I need to be more thoughtful about how I am positioning and who my big targets and threats are in the game, and just kind of name them throughout the game. Just try to name just the big 3 or 4. No super duper ultra subtle stuff, I think is going to be my focus initially, but like being very thoughtful of positioning, being very thoughtful of what the big threats are, and trying to be mentally prepared to hit all my buttons ultra fast.
I would at least do this during the draft stage. Think like, if I have a normal game and they all have a normal game, this hero is a bit... You have a child?
Yeah. You know, there's a baby outside.
Okay.
Some sort of baby on a leash, maybe a bush baby, just rummaging through there for garbage, building a baby nest, you know.
I understand. So do it in the drafting stage for sure, but make sure that you reassess this during the game, because if you're having like a crazy good game on Lina, then all those other power curves that they have are not going to match up in the same way.
Right.
So you need to reassess like what items they have, how that's going to change your initiation.
Yeah.
If you Yules them and they have a Yules, how does that change how you do it? What's actually better then is if you Yules them, you should expect that they're going to Yules themselves. Therefore, you don't throw the stun after your Yules. You will wait until after they Yules themselves to stun. Like things like that. Staying slightly ahead to adjust how you're going to play the team fights, which will ultimately win you more of those. So
okay, so I think what I'm going to do now is probably I just want to play a Lina game because she's sick, and then I think I'll swiftly want to do some coaching with you. I'm going to probably play 2 games and then switch over to you and do 2-3 games of live coaching, because in those live coaching games I want to do support and roaming, so maybe some Nyx and some Vayne or some shit like that, maybe some Bounty Hunter too, just making sure that I get better at the decision making component of the early game, because I think that understanding last hitting is conceptually easy and execution-wise hard, so I can always do better at the execution, but I'm still missing out on those concepts, so I think the coaching for the thought process would be helpful. So that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to now play myself the Dota. And for any of you who've never seen this part before, what's going to happen is I am now going to play about 2 games. And if you're watching here on Day 9 TV, I will then host Purge Gamers. And Purge is going to do a little coach review and then several live coaching sessions, which will all be on his channel and on his YouTubes. So thank you so much for watching this. Kevin, thank you so much for this.
No problem.
For just giving me the tip of the iceberg on the team fight. And of course, thanks to the sponsor, Gamer Sensei, for helping provide support for this show. Of course, if you have watched this show at all, you've heard us talk about it oh so many times. And I think we should do it again. Gamer Sensei is a coaching site where you can go and get coached in the games you play. There's a link down below, pages.gamersensei.com/learn-Dota. They have Dota coaching. They also have, you know, Hearthstone, StarCraft, League, Overwatch. Any game that you play, there's a coach there. And I gotta say, I showed off the interface a few weeks ago. It's just really nice. You just put in a date and a time that you want, and boom, it lists off a bunch of coaches who are available there in their price range, which is typically $10 to $25, but we have a discount below. And given the fact that we're literally doing coaching right now, I think you can tell that we're interested in the concept of coaching as a whole. So, huzzah. Kevin, here I go.
Have fun, man.
Oh, dude, let me tell you, I'm in the best mood of life, so it's going to be sick.